In the outermost spiral of the Helier axis, beyond charts that most navigators considered superstition rather than science, there drifted a kingdom carved from ice and vacuum. Its name, spoken aloud, caused seasoned traders to lower their voices and mercenaries to suddenly remember appointments elsewhere. It was called Varelion, the cryostellar dominion. At its heart sat a planet locked in eternal winter, a world where continents of frozen methane gleamed like silver mirrors beneath a dim blue star. Towering above that frozen surface was the Obsidian Spire, a palace grown rather than built, shaped from black crystal veins that pulsed faintly with cold light. And upon the highest throne of that spire ruled Queen Escrilla the Still, known across the galaxy by a simpler, more terrifying title: the coldest queen in the galaxy. She had not laughed in 3 centuries. She had not wept in 4. And she had not shown mercy since before most modern empires learned faster than light travel. Escrilla was Varelion, an ancient species whose biology fused crystalline structures with organic thought. Their emotions, when suppressed, could literally drop the surrounding temperature. When unleashed, they could shatter moons. The queen had chosen suppression. Under her reign, Varelion was unchallenged. Pirate fleets froze in orbit, their hulls turned brittle as glass. Diplomatic envoys left trembling, memories half erased by psychic cold. Entire civilizations learned to reroute their trade lanes simply to avoid her attention. She was power perfected through stillness. And yet, on a day the galaxy did not mark as significant, a single human ship crossed into Varelion space. Elias Rook had not planned to meet a queen. He was a linguistic contractor for the Terran Concord, specializing in dead languages and ceremonial translations. His ship, Wayfarer's Wake, was old, patched with alloys from 3 different civilizations and powered by a drive that whined like an injured animal when pushed too hard. A navigation error, caused by a corrupted star map bought cheaply on a fringe station, sent him sliding out of hyperspace far too close to Varelion's exclusion boundary. The alarm screamed once, then died. Frost crept across his cockpit glass from the edges inward, blooming like pale flowers. Elias felt the temperature drop instantly, his breath fogging despite internal heating surging to maximum. "Well," he muttered, fingers stiff as he tried to regain control. "This is bad." Before he could jump again, space folded. A Varelion interdiction lattice wrapped around his ship, freezing the quantum foam itself. The Wayfarer's Wake was dragged from motion and gently, but irresistibly, pulled toward the frozen planet below. Elias had read the stories. No one violated Varelion space by accident and lived to write about it. He was not executed immediately, which surprised him. Instead, Elias was escorted, if one could call being carried by silent, floating crystalline constructs escorted, through halls of the Obsidian Spire. The palace was vast, echoing, and unbearably cold, yet his body never quite froze. Some subtle technology or biology held him at the edge of survival. Every step felt deliberate, ritualized. He was being prepared. Finally, the constructs halted before a throne room larger than any human cathedral. The ceiling vanished into shadow, pierced by slow-drifting shards of ice that glowed faintly. At the far end, upon a throne grown from a single colossal crystal, sat Queen Escrilla. She did not move. She did not need to. Her presence pressed against Elias's mind like deep water. He felt his thoughts slow, his memories frosting over. He dropped to one knee without being told. "Human," her voice echoed, not through sound alone, but directly within his skull. It was precise, emotionless, and colder than the vacuum between stars. "You have trespassed where even empires fear to look." Elias swallowed. His throat burned. I acknowledge the violation, Your Majesty, he said carefully. It was unintentional. Intent is irrelevant, Escrilla replied. Your species is reckless by design. That stung, but he didn't argue. She studied him in silence. Elias sensed ancient intelligence unfolding, measuring him not as an individual but as a concept, human, with all its chaos and contradictions. You will speak, she commanded. Explain why your life should continue. Elias had expected interrogation, perhaps torture. He had not expected this. He was a linguist, not a diplomat, not a hero, but words were all he had. I don't believe my life has inherent value to you, Elias said slowly, choosing honesty over flattery. I believe that's exactly why I might interest you. The temperature dipped. Frost crackled along the floor. Continue, the queen said. You rule through stillness, Elias said. Through fear. Through perfect control. And it works. No one challenges you. No one dares. A pause. But absolute stillness, he added, is also absolute stagnation. The constructs around him shifted, crystalline limbs tightening. Careful, Escrilla warned. Elias nodded. I know, but you asked for words. And humans were very good at saying the wrong thing until it becomes the right thing. That earned him nothing but silence. He pressed on, heart pounding. Your empire is frozen in time. Powerful, yes, but alone. You inspire terror, not loyalty. Compliance, not belief. The queen's gaze sharpened. Elias felt his memory shudder, as if something ancient brushed against them. You presume to understand a queen who has outlived your species' recorded history, she said. No, Elias replied. I presume to understand loneliness. That did it. The cold spiked violently. Elias cried out as ice formed in his hair, on his lashes. His knees slammed into frozen stone. Silence, Escrilla thundered. I do not. She stopped. Something had shifted. Not in the room. In herself. Loneliness. The word echoed through layers of memory she had sealed away centuries ago. Escrilla remembered when the Varelian people still laughed, fractured, crystalline laughter that chimed through cities. She remembered choosing stillness not out of cruelty, but necessity. Emotion had once nearly annihilated her species during a civil fracture war, their passions causing planetary winters that killed millions. She had frozen herself to save them, and in doing so, frozen everything else. You speak as if you know me, she said quietly. Elias struggled to stand, shaking. I don't know you, but I know what it costs to survive by shutting everything out. She descended from the throne. Each step sent ripples of frost across the floor. Elias could barely breathe as she stopped inches from him. Her form was tall, elegant, faceted with translucent crystal veins glowing pale blue. Humans are brief, she said. You burn brightly and extinguish yourselves. Sometimes, Elias agreed. Other times, we endure by connecting, messily, imperfectly, painfully. He looked up at her then, meeting her gaze despite every instinct screaming not to. You don't need to be warmer, he said softly. You just need to stop being alone. The impossible happened. Queen Escrilla froze. Not metaphorically. Her crystalline body locked mid-motion, frost patterns crystallizing outward in sharp, symmetrical lines. The ambient temperature dropped, then stabilized. The drifting ice shards above halted in place, suspended unnaturally. The constructs around the room powered down, collapsing into inert crystal heaps. Elias stared, unsure if he had just doomed himself or the galaxy. Inside Escrilla's mind, something ancient cracked. Loneliness was not an external threat. It was not an enemy fleet or rebellious sector. It was a truth she had never permitted herself to examine. For the first time in centuries, the queen did not suppress emotion. She felt it, and the shock immobilized her entire being. The freeze lasted minutes, then hours. Elias was escorted, by now reactivated but gentler constructs, to a chamber where warmth, relative by Varelian standards, slowly returned to his limbs. No one spoke to him. No one explained. Outside, across the cryostellar dominion, sensors registered anomalies. Temperatures fluctuated unpredictably. Ice rings shifted. Varelian officials, and used to uncertainty, whispered in crystalline harmonics.
Their queen had changed.
Finally, Elias was summoned again. Escrilla sat upon her throne, posture altered. Not relaxed, but no longer rigid. Her glow was softer, warmer, impossibly so. "You have disrupted equilibrium," she said. Elias bowed. "I didn't mean to." "I know," she replied. "That is what makes it dangerous." She studied him anew, not as a concept, not as a species, but as a singular being. "You spoke truth without intent to conquer," she continued. "That is rare." "So, I'm not being executed?" Elias ventured. Escrilla tilted her head, an alien gesture that nonetheless conveyed curiosity. "No," she said. "You are being released." Relief flooded him. "But," she added, "you will carry a message." The message traveled faster than Elias ever had. When he returned to Terran space, his report spread not through official channels first, but through rumor, through quiet backroom briefings, through stunned ambassadors. The coldest queen in the galaxy had opened her borders, slightly. A single diplomatic corridor. Controlled, cautious, but real. Varelian patrols no longer destroyed trespassers on sight. They escorted them away. No one knew why. Elias never spoke publicly about what he had said. He claimed it was translation error, cultural nuance. Only once, years later, did he receive another message, delivered in a small crystalline shard that hummed faintly with warmth. It contained no words, only a single sensation: connection. Far away, upon a frozen throne, Queen Escrilla stared out across the stars, not with hunger or fear, but with something dangerously close to hope. The galaxy would never be warm, but it would no longer be entirely cold. The galaxy did not understand what had happened at first. For centuries, the cryostellar dominion had been a constant, an unmoving wall of cold certainty at the edge of known space. Charts marked its borders in warning crimson. Fleet admirals used it as a reference point when explaining the meaning of inevitability. And then inevitability hesitated. Merchant convoys reported something unprecedented: Varelian patrols that did not fire, exploratory probes that were gently redirected instead of atomized. A single diplomatic buoy appeared along the newly opened corridor, pulsing with restrained, deliberate energy. It was not peace, but it was possibility. Inside the obsidian spire, Queen Escrilla stood alone in a chamber that had once been sealed forever. The Hall of Resonant Memory had not been opened since before her coronation. The walls were alive with frozen echoes, recordings of voices preserved in crystal lattice, memories of Varelians who had chosen emotion over suppression and paid for it with their lives during the Fracture War. She had avoided this place for centuries. Now she walked its length slowly, frost crunching beneath her feet. Loneliness. The human's words still vibrated within her, embedded like a fault line she could no longer ignore. It had not shattered her control, but it had revealed the cost of maintaining it. The Dominion had survived. But had it lived? Escrilla raised a hand. The crystals responded, activating softly. Voices filled the chamber, not screaming, not raging, but laughing.
Singing. Arguing.
Loving. The temperature rose by a fraction of a degree. Across the planet, sensors registered the change. Varelian high regents froze in disbelief. Elias Rook did not become famous. That, perhaps, was the strangest part. He returned to his quiet life as a linguistic contractor, refusing interviews, declining promotions, quietly correcting mistranslations for diplomats who suddenly found themselves dealing with the impossible task of talking to Varelians rather than fearing them. He never told anyone exactly what he had said to the Queen, because it hadn't been a speech. It had been a confession. Sometimes, late at night, he wondered if he had imagined the crystalline shard still resting in a drawer beside his bed. It pulsed faintly, warm to the touch, an object that should not have been warm at all. Then one night it activated. The room dimmed. Frost traced delicate patterns along the walls, but it did not bite. Instead, a presence unfolded gently in his mind. Not a voice, a thought. You endured. Elias sat up slowly, heart racing. Your Majesty, he whispered, feeling ridiculous for addressing empty air. The presence lingered. I am learning, it replied. Images followed, not words. Varelian councils debating instead of obeying. Patrol commanders hesitating before firing. A child, crystalline and small, laughing as snow spiraled upward instead of falling. Emotion, carefully regulated, not suppressed. I didn't mean to change your empire, Elias said softly. Change was inevitable, Escrilla answered. Stagnation was simply quieter. The presence began to fade.